I've got a couple of thoughts here and there based on how the session's gone, which I'm going to have as this first basic summary of the video section. So I really like the progress that I've made with my shoulder flexibility. I've been able to get closer. I've been able to put my hands closer to the center of my band than I've ever been able to do before, and get around from the back to the front, which is more difficult to do the other way around. So I feel really happy with that, because I'm seeing it as a sign that my shoulder flexibility is progressing, and so I'd like to imagine I'm taking more care of my shoulder health, which is definitely a necessity for me, in my opinion, because I've been twisting my shoulders a bit when I try and do some scapular pull-ups and scapular chin-ups. So in pursuit of trying to be careful there, and in pursuit of trying to prevent injury, that's why I'm using the resistance bands to do, I don't know what they're called, but to pull the resistance band from the back of my body to the front of my body, whatever that's called. I'm trying to do that with more and more ease, whilst having my hands closer and closer to the center of the band, so that my shoulders are as flexible, mobile and healthy as they can be. And that isn't necessarily the only thing that I could do. I'm not really sure what to do other than that, but I don't mind that I'm not sure. I mean, it does make sense as to why, because I've been so focused on doing other things outside of educating myself on, i.e. like anatomy and physiology and that sort of stuff. So it does make sense. Outside of that, very basically, I went to stretch muscles that I could think of from head to toe. I'd say I could have stretched my back. I could have gone out my way to activate my back muscles more, stretch my back off a bit, or stretch my, I don't mean stretch my back off. It's like, I haven't finished the session, so it's not like I'm calling down for me to say that, but stretch my back, because I didn't really do that, other than when I was twisting and having my activating my traps at the same time. I then accidentally was activating my upper back muscles there. They're feeling really tight, honestly. But yeah, other than that, it was a more in-depth stretch session than I've had in the recent past, these past few days. And it's something that I'd like to further develop with this structure that I've made, in terms of stretching, going out my way to stretch each muscle from head to toe, because I've been thinking more about stretching off each muscle by thinking that way. I wouldn't usually try and do any like kickback exercises that you see on glutes videos usually, but I did this time because I thought of stretching each muscle from head to toe. So there you go, it's clearly working. I didn't go out my way to stretch each muscle in the bum. I don't really know how to do that. It would be helpful for me if I really do want to stretch each muscle, but at least I'm starting somewhere. Anyway, that's it. On to the strengths I go, I think. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, I really liked the improvements that I've made in shoulder flexibility with the help of these bands. Actually, I was just playing about with them, literally just doing this on the swings, literally just swinging the swings. But yeah, I really like how things have gone with that. I've been going out my way to take care of them more, as I mentioned in the basic summary of the session, because I've been twisting my shoulders and I've been hearing them click when I do that during scapular pull-ups and scapular chin-ups. And I'd like to imagine that because I've seen and made these improvements in shoulder flexibility and that I've given them a go, I am at least partially doing what it takes to further take care of the health of my shoulders, to keep myself more mobile, which is important for me, because if I'm not letting my body be mobile and I'm not taking mobility into account, it's going to make just living and existing another day unnecessarily difficult, especially at a point in my life where I'm at, where I don't have any physical health issues that have a significant impact on my life. I did, when I was 10 years old, break my wrist, but it's been over a decade since that happened, and it has no physical effect or negative impact on my physical abilities or negative impact on my mental health. I feel completely okay. It's made a full recovery at this point. Even 5 years deep, I say it made a full recovery. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh no, I don't remember. I'm gonna have to look back. I was talking about lack of physical health issues. Yeah, so I definitely plan to keep that up with through going out my way to work on my mobility and flexibility eventually. At the moment, I have been very much doing strength-based training, trying to increase how many sets or reps I do per session, or keeping the sets and reps the same, but trying to increase my strength through doing exactly the same session, but more effectively. So I'd say I could work on that. So I'm taking care of more aspects of my health, because it doesn't matter how physically strong your muscles are, you can't really use them if you don't have a high level of mobility and flexibility, which in calisthenics is definitely needed on the premise that you want to do exercises with proper form, such as doing a handstand properly and keeping it straight back and things like that, or like doing a straddle handstand with like your feet straddled, they're just wide out like this in a V, things like that. Yeah, so I could definitely improve there. But going back to strengths of the session, what else was there? My planning. I have further developed how I'd want to go about my warm-up sessions by thinking of stretching each muscle from head to toe, or really from from trap to calf, or traps to calves. It's something that I could develop on, and at least I'm going out of my way to have more in-depth sessions. Yeah, but I don't really think there's much else to it in terms of strength. So onto weaknesses I go. First thing that I point out is timing of the session. It was around about, I don't remember when it was, maybe 12-ish o'clock when I was doing this session. But that wasn't because I wanted to do it at 12, hence I'm classing my timing of the session as a weakness. And the reason why I didn't do it when I planned to was because I had a lot of thoughts on my mind about things I won't get into in this video that I wanted to work through, and I felt the need to work through those first to then be able to very easily focus on my session, which is, from my experience, exactly what I made happen. There was a lot of thoughts on my mind that I wanted to work through, and I wouldn't say that they're gone, but I've instead done better than just make them somehow disappear. I've instead allowed myself to develop more constructive thoughts on the topic and what I've considered to be healthier points of view, which I can further develop the more I write my thoughts down on some things. I've just been doing it on pen and paper, journaling. Yeah. So I say timing. I could have done it when I wanted to do it, but that's me being very, very picky or being very rather critical of how I view this warm-up session went, because I did have things that I wanted to deal with first, and if I hadn't dealt with them, then I might have actually had a lower quality session than I did in the session itself. It might have been way lower quality because my thoughts were elsewhere. Weaknesses, anything else other than that? Like really, really apparent ones. I mean, what I could develop is be more in depth with my stretching plan, in terms of wanting to take more care of stretching my upper back, or just my back in general first of all, because I forgot to do that during the session. And I could also go out my way to develop the session, or no, also the other weakness would be not taking mobility and flexibility into account. I mean, there could be different words for the same thing, but just in case they're not, I'd say that too. Because although I did go out my way to care for the health of my shoulders, or the health of my shoulder joints, in terms of joints, other than that, going out my way to take care of them, I did not do that, so I definitely could. I'm just getting used to having a more in-depth structure to my warm-up sessions for now, which I'll then eventually build on. Yeah, I'm finding it really difficult to find some weaknesses outside of what I've just mentioned, so I'm gonna now think about how I can further develop my strengths. I'm gonna have to look back at what I've said and then take it from there. To make more progress with the first point that I made, which is developing shoulders flexibility, I could have set some reps planned for the warm-up, purposely to think about getting my hands closer to the center of the resistance band. That way I'd be having to go out my way to become more flexible with my shoulder. I'd be having to go out my way to make my shoulders more flexible by giving myself the task of having my hands closer to the center of the band behind my back to then pull it and then make it go around to the front of my body. So sets and reps planned specifically for that would be a way that I could further develop the strength. Same way I could do sets and reps planned for stretching off each part of each muscle in my body. That'd be another way. Having exercise listed to do to stretch off my body from head to toe would be another way to further develop on the warm-up that I've done. Another way would be going out my way to warm up in every single plane of motion, both from the front and back, to the sides, and then twisting. I said from both. No, it's not two things, it's three. Yeah. Another thing, what would that be? Maybe having like a form checklist in mind for all of these exercises, but I think maybe that's just me being very, very critical of my form. I would actually argue that I'm technically doing that already by thinking of little bits here and there. For example, foot placement, which I didn't mention in the strengths part of this video, but I would actually like to mention here, as I forgot to do that. I was going out my way to check my technique with my feet during some of the warm-up exercises. But yeah, I'd say other than that, although there could be more ways that I can improve, I'd say that that's it for now, and I'm ready to move on to how I could further develop on my weaknesses. To further develop on the weakness that I've on the timing that I've classed as a weakness, I could in fact journal if I want to, if I feel the need to, if certain thoughts that I wouldn't want to have would keep coming back. I could do that before coming out to the park, for example, or before going to the gym, or wherever I'm at, or even before wanting to exercise in the garden. That way, when it's time for me to go, or when I plan to go, then I do just that, not that and journal. Yeah, so I say, if I'm being really pedantic with that, with weaknesses, or being really critical, I'd say that's the first thing that I could do. The next point that I made within the weaknesses section was about not taking flexibility and mobility into account, and on the premise that they are two completely different ideas, which I'm not sure they are, what I can do is carry on, bring in my personal training book with me so that I can further educate myself on the matter. And I brought it here to educate myself, just in case I wanted to read it as I do the sessions. That was the general idea of why I'd want to bring any form of education with me that I'd have. But I didn't this time around. I didn't read during the warm-up. I just wanted to warm up, really. It wasn't a thought that came to mind whatsoever. But in case it does, and in case I do want to do it, it is there. But yeah, I'd say a weak point of mine is lack of education. And on the topic of anatomy and physiology, I think I'd be able to make things way easier for myself if I gave myself a section within each day to purposely to educate myself, which is the time I'd want to do that is in fact now as I'm exercising, but I'm more focused on the exercise than learning the theory part. So as for making both possible, perhaps what I should instead do is have a different section for it. Maybe before and after all of the exercise that I would have done, I can then read, so that I don't the idea to want to learn about fitness and the want to actually do the fitness, the physical activity, don't clash. Might not be the most sensible idea, but it's an idea that I can try out. Yeah, and at the moment, seeing as I've just come up with it now and I am being quite biased, I think I don't see how that wouldn't work. If I, for example, what I could do is, now that I think about it, literally plan, make it time bound. Say, for example, for at least 10 minutes before the warm-up, I could then read about fitness, whatever I'm interested in, and then as I go from there, make what I'd want to read more specific. And then after that, after I've done everything, I've stretched off everything from the main exercise sessions. No need to stretch twice from doing a warm-up and then stretching for that warm-up. I don't see the point in that. That was the time to stretch and get ready for the sessions. I could then read for another 10 minutes or something like that on whatever I'd want to read, whatever I'd either want to read spontaneously or would plan to read. Yeah, so I like the sound of that idea, and it's something that I will write down now, actually. Also, within the reviews, I could add another specific section to them, which is about that education, about that what I would have learned. For example, before the warm-up, doing a 10 minutes of reading it, as I was saying, and also during one of the last sessions that I would have done during the day, and saying what I learned then as well. So in order to further establish like learning on a regular basis about, for example, anatomy and physiology, I can make videos, or at least sections within the videos, about that on a daily basis too, outside of just wanting to do it for 10 minutes and not even remembering what I wrote. I'd be able to make it easier for myself to remember what I wrote by speaking on them. Speaking about what I had learned during my readings, yeah. And I would therefore indirectly actually be studying for my exams too, and just to do I'd be studying for the exams, for my own exercise sessions, and also to coach people properly as well by doing that indirectly. Overall, I really liked how the session went. Just a few things that I could tweak on or work on a bit here and there, but other than that, I mean, it's definitely developing what I'm doing. I'm definitely developing what I'm doing, and I don't mind. It's always something here and there that I could go out of my way to pick on or to really think about, but I don't mind doing that as long as I'm not, in my opinion, thinking about it in an excessively critical way, to the point where I'm starting to actually make myself feel down about how critical I'm being on my my performance during warm-ups, and also what I consider main sessions, in which I'd be going out my way to purposely progress with stuff. I'm not doing that during the warm-ups. I'm just trying to warm up. But yeah, that's it really. I'd just say that. It was definitely okay, yeah. And I feel really happy with how the progress that I've made with stretching my shoulders with the resistance bands. I've got a bit of a headache from doing this, from all of this talking and this review, so I've got to take it easy from now on with just the exercise and the review, so I don't feel mentally overstimulated. Yeah. All right, that's it. There's no outro, so I'm just gonna make it here. Just for you video. Bye. I'm done.